Hi everyone, and welcome to the Tormek Live Sharpening Classes. As usual, we are at the Tormek headquarters here in Lindesberg, Sweden. Spring has arrived, but we decided to be indoors anyway to sharpen. In today's episode, I think it's the 9th episode, we will be talking about the MB-100, the Multi Base 100, which is an accessory or an attachment which allows us to sharpen on the outside, mainly on the diamond wheels, and that will give us a perfectly flat bevel. I will let Wolfgang explain it more in detail in just an instant. Before we get started with the MB-100, we should remind you that it's a live episode, so please ask your questions and we'll try to answer them as best as possible during the show. I would also like to remind you to follow us on or follow our YouTube channel. That way you get alerts every time we have a new sharpening class coming up. We should also present ourselves for you who haven't seen us before. My name is Sebastian and I'm a country sales manager here at Tormek. I have a couple of countries all over the world, but Western Europe, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa. And with me I have my colleague, the sharpening doctor. You may present yourself.
Hello, and I'm Wolfgang, and also like Sebastian, country sales manager, but more locally means Central Europe and South Europe to Greece, Turkey, Israel. Yeah.
So we cover most of the world together, almost. Not the US, but there we have our own office doing a good job. Behind the camera is Victor. Welcome, Victor.
Thank you.
Good. Should we dive or dig into today's episode? The MB-100, should we start discussing, I don't know, where do you want to start? Do you want to start with the diamond wheels, or you should be using the diamond wheels?
Of course.
And the reason for why we need to use the diamond wheels and not the stones mainly is?
I think the most obvious reason is there. We have a diamond wheel, doesn't change anything. The surface is always flat, doesn't get smaller or surface changes in up and downs and grooves what you would have on a stone. So you can do it on a stone, but maybe just a few times, but then it's no longer precise because you have grooves and so on. You will use and wear down the material of the stone.
And therefore, if you will use the MB-100 on a regular basis, we recommend the diamond wheels.
Absolutely.
That's correct.
There's no way.
And if you sharpen on the side of the wheel, you will get a perfectly flat bevel, right?
Exactly.
Compared to if you sharpen on the top of the wheel, as we do usually, you will get a small concave bevel. This is perhaps perfectly, people know everything about this, or perhaps never heard of, but if you perhaps go through a bit on the, you did some nice drawings on the...
Absolute.
And tell us more about concave or convex flat and the comparison.
Exactly, it's a little bit more clear because when you see the stone, it's quite round, and then you think you get really a concave shape of the bevel, but when we draw it a little bit, it's not perfect in the measurements, but on a 250 diameter wheel, and we have a 20-degree bevel on a 2 millimeter thick tool, that means it gets quite long bevel, and that means on the deepest point from the edges you have 0.03 millimeters. That means it's a third of a normal 80-gram paper, like from your printer or a copy machine. So that's, I would say, a philosophical question. The reason why it is cast, if you think here, this is a tool with a concave shape, and then the dotted line is the flat grind. The force, of course, it's a little bit more aggressive. It will dig in a little bit faster than compared to a flat. The force is going straight forward. So in general, this is not an issue. But there are some tools like for the violin makers, because they want to cut precisely, not destroy the surface, they want to cut forward. Or even for chip carving, there is really precise fine cuts. And there is a reason why flat grind is very useful. And on a chisel for wood turning, there also an advantage, but we'll talk later on that when we came to it. just to make it clear, some people, what is concave, convex? When we talk concave, it is like a cave. It's dug out, it's rounded to the inside. On convex, it's, yeah, outside bound. And the flat grind, of course, no shape. This is used more or less on axes or some knives. It's a little bit more stable, the edge, but also the cutting performance is not the same like a concave or a flat.
So what we could say generally is that if you talk about the knife, if you have a if you sharpen on top of the stone or on the side of the stone, the concavity that produces is more or less a philosophical question.
Yep.
You won't feel the difference, you won't see the difference. But for certain fine wood carving tools or certain fine tools, as an artist, you may feel a certain difference and want a flat bevel.
Absolutely. Or for those who prefer, of whatever reasons, they can sharpen on the outside now. Yeah, not only.
I think that's a fine tradition we have here at Tormek, that we don't take sides always on the philosophical discussions. We just try to provide all solutions and let the users choose their preferences. And here we give them the option to have a flat bevel, or if they
both
want
ways, yeah. Or they sharpen on a concave. Then we come to the bevel, the skew, a big surface. You may sharpen it with a hollow grind or a concave grind, but then for a quick fix, you can go just on the outside. Yeah, and it's much faster just to reshape it. There are some small preferences for some people because they want the speed and so on. So everyone can find now a solution. Yeah, this is the beauty, and now also with the jig when we talk about it.
Should we show the varieties you have with the MB-100? There's a lot, endless possibilities, but you could show perhaps a bit more how it works and the basics of it.
Exactly, this is what we want to do. Also, we have a lot of tools, just a few of them. We don't sharpen today, we just clamp it, and that you just recognize also your tools maybe because they're slightly a little bit different, so we have a small choice here. And the beauty with the MB-100 is totally underrated because you think it's just what it is. It's an adapter, no jig or so in that way. And it is there just to come around with your support that you can use all your jigs on the side, because you have to turn around in some way to get it parallel into the stone surface. And so you can use it in the horizontal position, for example. You have the distance you can choose. You can choose more, you see from here, than 180 degrees. In all positions, you can, there's a click function, you can, in all the positions, go up here in the 90 degrees nearly, one too fast. For the vertical position, what we want to use it first. And even now the screws are on the bottom. If you think it's difficult to handle, you can take them down and screw it in the top side if you prefer. So there are many, many variations. And it's just start your creativity, start play with the machine, how to reach the outside or use different tools. So you can invent a lot of different positions.
We could say in general that you could use you can sharpen all tools that are being sharpened with the Tormek system and use all different jigs with the MB-100, except I would say the SVP80, the DBS22 and the SVH320. So for molding blades, planer blades and drill bits. The reason are two. One, they are heavy tools, so it's difficult, but also that they work with the pressure downwards, and if you do it on the side, they would fall off.
Hold it.
But except for those three jigs, big jigs, pretty much everything works with the MB-100.
Absolutely, yeah. For example, you can go now in that way. You have more or less over the stone. When you go the other way around, you see you will be far off. So you can use it in that way, just fix it. Then you can choose the heights just depends on the jig. If you're a knife jig, what we will use, we go quite high. And then exactly the same. I think we will start with the kitchen knife.
Yeah.
Just clamp it as you're used to in the middle. But now you don't need to go straightly directly in the line. You can go really straight in because it's not affecting as much as when you're sharpening on the normal position, also on the top side, on the outer circumference of the stone. And even just to mention, if your normal universal support would be too short, maybe you have a machete or so, still it fits also for the US 430. So even that, you come longer out, higher up. It's also a good extension.
What could be mentioned perhaps also is for the regular Tormek user that it feels a bit different in the beginning from what you're used to. It's a bit different technique when you sharpen on the side of the wheel. But once you've done it for a while, it feels it's as comfortable as sharpening on top, but it's a question of getting used to it because it feels a bit, or I experienced it a bit strange in the beginning.
Absolutely, because you have, when you start a machine, you have upwards movement, and on that side you have downwards movement, and here you have always horizontal, so it will feel a little bit wobbling in the beginning, but when you get used to it, it is absolute easy. And for example, a kitchen knife, if you experience a problem that you get sometimes a small check in here or not a perfect flat sharpening, now you can do it on the outside. You get a perfect long surface where you touch the stone. And the same way, you can use the edge marker here to mark the bevel. You go on the outside, scratch. If you change the angle, it's exactly the same way. You can go inside or outside, or you go longer or shorter. If you are in a position over the center here, which is not as good because you sharpen here and here, you want to sharpen on the top side. Okay, we have perfect position here. Get as much as possible. Maybe we can go even a little bit down. So, oops, that, perfect. And then, as you said, you get the angle through the distance here again, you block it, and then you have a really perfect surface, and then you need only to do that movement. Very little, just hold against, like here again, and then you can, it's very easy. So really, from the other side, you can stand behind the machine or a little bit, it's the same.
In our knife sharpening episode, we're talking about lifting up the knife towards you, not pulling it.
And this is now outside.
Yes, and in this case, lifting it would be pulling it towards me or Wolfgang pushing it.
Just like a pendulum.
Yeah.
It's very, very easy. Super easy.
And the
feels a little bit strange, but you get a perfect flat shape, of course.
Yeah.
That's the big advantage.
And as you said, the marker method is working very well and is efficient on the stone, but also on the side of the stone. When it comes to the VM200, if you want to set the angle, there is a small difference compared to...
Because then you have to hold here a little bit. It's a little bit more difficult, but what I prefer, I open the screws here, so that it's a little bit easier to move. And always, I'll show it for Victor here, you start at 250, because the diamond wheels are 250, you don't need to change anything. Then you choose, like as you're used to, for example, 15 degrees, that means total degree of 30 for the edge, normally. But then you see MB-100 here. That would give a wrong degree. You go 15 on the top degree here. Then just hold it. And that means you have 15 plus 18. This is then here 33 degrees on the bottom. So that means always, if you have the old ones with not the second scale here, just use the scale here and add 18 degrees to your choice. Then you get also the right.
So the new ones, you always have marked where to put it for the MB-100, and you will have a scale that's fixed.
Exactly.
But if you have the old ones, then you wouldn't have the upper scale, but then you just add 18 degrees every time and you will get the right angle.
Exactly. And how to use, it's absolutely simple. You place it and then you use the surface on this on the wheel, not inside here, because it's lower, it will give you a wrong direction, and then just hold. You see the angle would be too far outside. We have to go and just open here and go in there even a little bit more, and then oops, there was too much. So then a little idea more. So then you have your 30 degrees, just same, not here, just here, easy. It's that way. Most people, and myself, I prefer the marker method because just repeating the same angle.
Yeah, it's fast.
Only if you have to regrind and make a new bevel.
Yeah.
And you have to be really sure you get a new 30 degrees on, or a 25, or whatever you choose.
What perhaps we could mention as well is the diamond wheels, you can run them dry. We recommend to run them in water with our ACC 150.
Exactly.
But when you sharpen on the side, it's not obvious that you always get water on it, so you can
just the screws are just sounding a little bit when they are loose. Just fix them. Otherwise, you can use your finger, just moisten on the side, or if you have a little bit of sponge, you can.
It's action on live TV.
Exactly. You can just use them also, moisten it. Very easy. Use it. Use maybe once or twice. When you sharpen, you feel it when it's getting dry. I mostly use the finger.
Yeah,
this is the easiest, fastest way.
It's always close to you, and it's you don't need to.
Yes.
Great. We showed the regular knife. If you have a draw knife, sometimes perhaps that's
the straight ones. You have done it also on the side. The beauty is if you're like here an old one, which was quite uneven, and to get a better edge you need really flatten the backside. We have done it just very flat freehand here on the side, just to fix the backside, because this is then a bit of your bevel. And then again you start, it's quite thick, open a little bit more. Much more.
And here also you have the advantage that there is quite a large part of the bevel here when you have a straight bevel that hits the wheel, a much larger part than on top of the wheel, which is an advantage as well. It will be a bit quicker.
Here I go really parallel. That makes it much easier because this is a flat and you get quite nice straight. Then you use your edge marker. We had it somewhere.
I have an extra here.
You have an extra one on the other side here. And then just you mark also your bevel. It's the same method. Thank you. You go on the outside, hold it. Oops. Look how it lies. Okay, we have to go quite a bit outwards. I see, I feel it. You see, I put now on the bevel, you see this quite. Oh. I opened it a little bit too far. That's live.
There's a lot happening at once. I will try to get.
You can also on the top side if you want.
Yeah, that's
good. So, perfect, thank you. So it looks quite good. And then you just Just quite a bit more to reach the outside. We are still not there.
With the
It's
risk.
a big, really, it's a big bevel, and this is the beauty also with the fine adjustment. You can really get it very precise. Otherwise, you have to grind the second bevel, and then takes really a long time. You have a lot of material.
It feels like we're
Nope. It was, put it on the
Things
top.
flying
It's easier. Screw
we get
it.
on top.
That's
With the risk of repeating ourselves, the tuning, or when you set a jig, is worth to take the extra time.
especially this huge bevel. Okay, I feel it's a little bit rounded here. It was sharpened between round. Therefore, this is good to see for Victor. We scratch on top and we scratch now in the bottom. So we are in the perfect position, but it's a little bit rounded. And this is also what I've meant. You can sharpen very fast the tool to get the rounded first maybe, and then you need only the flat, because then you sharpen only this tiny surface and it goes very, very fast.
Yeah, this is what happens if you sharpen a flat bevel when it was concave before.
Yep.
Then you will get just on the tip and on the bottom.
Yep.
And the other way around, if you have a perfectly flat bevel and you do scratching on top of the wheel, you will get scratches just in the middle.
Exactly.
If you take the other way around.
Yeah. So then you start, just block everything, of course, and then every screws. This is important. You have here now 5 screws. You have control to stabilize it, and then it's just on the outside. Beautiful. Just follow.
Perfect.
Yes, perfect. Easy.
Should we show quickly carving knife, perhaps, if you want
Yep.
to? It's the same basics, but here we need to use the SVM00 for.
Exactly. If you have Demora, the carving or whittling knives, it's again, we have in the part where we talk about these knives, wood carving knives, you just flat on the side and check also if from the above that the edge is really in the middle, because this is like your false edge or false blade, and then in the middle is the center, so that it's also perfect. If it's thicker or not perfectly aligned, then you have to measure both sides separately, that you get the right angle. And it's absolutely the same. Use the marker method, it's the easiest. And then on the outside, exactly the same. Then I would go here. The angle is not correct, just quite a bit in to what I already see.
But it's the exact same theory as with the other
and then
ones.
you go that.
The only thing that we could say perhaps here is it's a good idea, because it's difficult to get perfect in the center when you clamp it in the handle. So what we recommend is that you measure on both sides of the bevel
Absolutely.
to make sure that you are
Exactly,
perfectly.
because maybe you need, or you're pretty sure at that knives, because they're handmade, they're not exactly
No.
in
But
the
otherwise
middle.
it's just the exact same technique.
Yep.
Perfect. We have a comment, I think, and a question. The comment is from our good friend Ken. Great idea for a show. Thank you, Ken.
Hello,
thank you
Ken.
for everything you do for us. And thank you for following us week after week. And Linda Lark is been trying to buy the DE250 in Sweden, but it's out of stock from suppliers. An idea when more will be available from you. I don't really know how the situation is in Sweden at the moment. Please send an email to support@tormek.se and they will be able to answer you. I know just in general that demand for Tormek products is
Enormous.
very high, which we are humbled and glad for, but sometimes it can...
Supply chain has also lead
Yeah.
times.
But please
So-
send an email to support. It will go to our Swedish sales rep and he will hopefully know where there can be a diamond DE250 to be found in Sweden.
Yep, absolutely.
Sorry,
And just
move on.
we talk about the chip carving knives. It's the same like the carving knife with the SVM45 and the SVM00. They're just 3 different shapes, for example. Okay, this is rounded, but this has a bevel. So you follow exactly same method in the jig, marker, and then you can follow just the shape. Then we have 2 other ones, which we sharpened here a little bit. We started, but this has a small edge here. Then you would sharpen, just you see the little blinking, you would sharpen only the edge. But we started to, it was a little bit time problem to sharpen ready. We want to sharpen complete the surface to get, like here on that side, no bevel. We want to have a complete tapered side. The reason compared to an edge, I maybe just make a short drawing for the chip carver. It is very important. If you want to cut here in the material, so these are maybe the layers, and you have the edge lie on the side. We take another color, which is better to see. This is so one side and the other side. And this is here, so the center of the blade. That means you cut really here, just in the length. If you would have I will take the black again, a secondary face, a bevel here, then you see you don't cut down here, you will cut here, that line, from here. And this is for chip carving, not that what you want. You want really one cut, nice, and the other cut come together. Therefore you need a completely tapered shape, and this is difficult to make it round. Therefore, in that case, it's really the outside much better to sharpen on the outside a flat grind. And this is what we try to reshape this exactly on the outside, complete the side in the jig. So you can change also these tools. And this is a thicker one, which is completely down. A little bit too thick for finer works. Perfect. These are the differences.
I love when the sharpening doctor goes into detail and into specialist. It's your job, and it's my job to keep you moving.
We have the platform to give this information, because otherwise you have to answer so much.
And hopefully it helps many of our users. Great. Should we move on to perhaps how we can use the SVD186R and different tools on the side and sharpen on the side?
Especially if you have goat feet, which is a little bit difficult to sharpen. It's now absolute easy, first of all with the screw, the blocking screw, and the outside. So I go a little bit from my feeling here. Gut feeling says this could be perfect, this position, and I can turn around a little bit for Victor, or is it okay so? Otherwise I can turn a little bit to him, then it's easier to see for the camera.
And in the beginning could be said, when you work with MB-100, you have to sometimes think a bit three-dimensionally and try, you don't always find the right solution in the beginning.
Because here we were always in the 90 degrees. Yeah. Always to the surface, and here more or less parallel, but we can, the distance, we can go up and down, so we can really find all different angles. Sometimes it's a little bit of play. So open a little bit for a goat feet, for example. We have chosen a little bit a bigger one, it's easier to see. And we have a wood carving special, and we talk a little bit about that in the normal position, but now I'll show you the side. You have here the blocking screw. You just take it off, because I'm tired of putting always the way up. And then I can make a stop here. So, a little bit higher maybe, oops, like this. then because then I can leave. And then you see you have a little bit a groove here. That means it doesn't fall out. Okay, I see. Here we go. In that position, and I'm far too way in. So I just go out, find a nice position, and then what I do is, you see the rotation speed. Inside is slower than the outside because the way is much longer. So this sounds a bit strange, but this side is, or here outside is faster than the inside, the spinning speed. So that means I would sharpen more here on the outside than on the inside. Just to minimize that risk, I can use quite a narrow corridor, more or less. You see just a small sharpening arrow corridor here. When I go on that side, I have much wider one. And then, okay, I have a good position. And I use just the little screw here, where I can find that angle to lie flat on the stone, block it, every one, and then I have blocked here, I open here, and then can, again, it's the same like the height or distance out of the machine, I can choose the right angle. And then we could just checking here. And then I take it out, you see, parallel here, I need a little bit more outside to get more on it. So very easy, just go out a little bit. We have, of course, plug it. So now. And you see I get here, just a tip. I have a little, it's very, these are really in a hundredth or less than a hundredth of a millimeter. You see, got here. Then it's really easy, it holds. I start the machine and then just can use, and then again here if I want a little bit water, sharpen that way. And when we have sharpened that side, we can just flip it down, go a little up, we block here that, and find the same angle flat on it. And take that side, and then the rounded we can take here.
V-tools are known as the nightmare of sharpening, but this really makes, I wouldn't say it makes it easy, but way easier.
Way easier, more difficult in the adjustments, because we have 2, 5, 6, and the 7th screw.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's that up and down.
Once you find the right adjustments, it's way easier. A good tip can also be that hone quite often, because sometimes there will be some burr left at the tip, and you think that you have a perfect edge, but that's just burr, so hone quite often. Another good tip is once you get off, if you take more from one side than the other, start over. Because if you have one side shorter than the other and you try to compensate, it will just frustrate you. So every time you feel that you have lost the shape, make it flat on the side and start over.
When you make it flat, it's just straight on the outside. Cut it off, and then you see nicely the silver lines again, and make it parallel. So we explained this in detail in the wood carving section, what we have done. I think it's part 3 or 4.
I think so. It's called the wood carving section.
Exactly. We will explain all the hints and problems what you have. But on the outside, it's really a simple thing, even for the spoon shape. In the spoon shape, you don't need a lot of adjustment here. It's just to get a proper, nice position flat on it.
It's perfect. Should we move on?
Yeah, and the same is for gouges. You just follow them around. Exactly the same. Then a little bit special, these markers, you can sharpen them too. It's exactly the same. You just put them inside here, go in there, And then you see already when you have them here where to place them. Open a little bit. You can go a little bit in there too. So. And then you see already when you go in how the, it looks not so bad here. That. And then you open here. And then when you change that angle, then you see you have to recalibrate even that distance here. And this was perfect. A little bit more in. So then you just block it, everything, check all your screws, and then you can block this, and then you can sharpen that way. On the other way around, you just do the same. You see color is gone already here too. And then the other side, as more or less the distance angle should be the same. You should only find the perfect position here again to make it comfortable for you.
Perfect. And the black marker method is?
It's the easiest way for those, because it's difficult to measure the angle. And they came here already in the right shape, so just to repeat it. And then the violin maker knives, we have these types of Kiridashi. You have both sides with an edge, both sides edges, or just on one side. There are different angles here. For example, we have a few here. I think this is now a straight one. It's a very long one. They're normally sharpened a little bit flat from the back side. And if you have to take a little bit from that side, it's exactly the same way that we go in a vertical. This is thinner, this is a little bit more difficult to clamp. Just really straight in there. And then exactly the same. Go a little bit down, a little bit in to find it. And then you can go, you see, outside, take them out to get them parallel, a little bit.
And this could also be a good solution on the Tanto knives, where you have the same type of bevel that sometimes people ask how to sharpen. This could be a good solution for them as well.
With the knife from the other position, with a knife jig. So easy, or then the other side, if you have it just a little bit outside, you see that you're flat on it, and then block it. And you can choose even maybe a little bit more inside. So
perfect.
Oops, this is then here the screw that you can. It's beautiful, all positions. It's only playing.
Yeah.
But you find a lot of possibilities now.
Yeah, and it takes perhaps first time you start, there's a lot of different adjustments, so you have to think about a bit or look at the videos when Wolfgang does it. But when you have used it for a while, you get the idea, and it's quite fast to set the right angles and right settings.
We move on to the planer blades.
Yes.
Or chisel.
Chisel.
The straight edge tools with the SE77. We go in the 0 position here. We have also the beautiful, I think this is quite good to help you that you don't go all the way down. Pick it up. A chisel, the same method. When you clamp it, just in parallel, choose the screws, tighten it, marker method, or if you want to use the angle master, it's the same way. So then we go. You feel it already when it's on it. Then you have the most adjustment done, and it's just the fine tuning.
And I would say that almost chisels or planer blades would be the easiest to sharpen on the side of the wheel. It's it's very easy. It's
when you get it straight.
yeah.
If some problems you have with the angle, so that's the easiest way, and then you can.
Yeah, and you barely need to move it upside down since it's coated.
Yeah,
You can almost
exactly.
just have it.
Yeah. And the good thing is, now you have not that problem for very short chisel, for example, Japanese chisels, or as we have here with the Violin maker small, it's no toys, they are real tools. If you've never seen them, even I take the smallest one here, for example, take them out, and even that had a little bit rounded. It's exactly the same method for with the 2 screws here for the chamber. You can use it in here, big fingers, small. All the way, it's also very thin compared to the chisel. So it's a little bit more difficult if you don't have a workbench. So to get it straight in here on the outside, this should be also in the 90 degrees. So it's very short. It's the same thing here, and then you go just inside and here. And then you find it just, of course. You see, you can go very, very close. There's nothing, there's still plenty of space here on the surface of the stone through the roundness. Even if we took a bit of the material off here, you will still touch with very short tools. I tried with it, it's very tight. You get 25 degrees, but it's very close. Now we can go really, see, very, very close without touching.
So for short Japanese chisels and planer blades looking like this,
Very
an
small.
advantage to go on the side because you can have very short.
You see how short this is.
Yeah, the protrusion can be very, very short in a way you can't really on the top of the wheel.
If you can't clamp it deep enough, even you can clamp it as it holds, and then you take a small angle, carpenter's angle, and then just get your 90 degrees.
Yeah.
Just to control it in that case. Then this is also a thing, the router blades, they are flat grinded, and when you try to get in some cheek, you have always, you see, the roundness, the problem, you can't clamp them. This is the problem. Now easy, when you take it exactly like another one here on the outside, take it on here, and then quite a bit shorter, straight on the bottom, and then you see, absolutely easy. You take the marker method, then you can find that just. So you can reach. It also only have plenty space between.
Yeah, so that's a
Even
good
very short one. The longer ones is no problem. The faster you go away, then and closer in there. So you have all different positions to.
And this gives us an extra option compared on sharpening on top of the wheel, so
which wasn't possible to
no,
sharpen
exactly,
before.
No, exactly. Should we move on to the skew, perhaps?
Yeah, skew or wood turning tools also. It's the same thing. When you sharpen them before, as you used to, then you can do it in the same way on the outside.
Do you find it an advantage to sharpen, for example, a skew on the outside, or would you prefer to do it on top of the wheel?
Depends how the machine is prepared. If everything is prepared on that position, I wouldn't go for it. No. But if I have the position or just a quick sharpening, and then here really doesn't matter otherwise you need the TDS 50 to get the protrusion and the
Yeah.
angle distance to the stone. Now here you are completely free. I just fix it here on the 20, make it a little bit shorter. So I don't care about the protrusion because in that case it doesn't matter. It is only a point of the...
And you would use the black marker method as well, right?
Yep. In here. And then get the distance here, the right. Oops, hold it here. I think we should show the small trick here too. The fast.
Every
Got
opportunity
it.
you
Got
get
it.
to showing off, you
The small tricks again. So. The screws. Yep. So somewhere, and then you can find that just here. You can go, for example, if you want also, if it's too a little bit more flat, if you prefer. I saw this is not perfect. This was rounded. We have a little bit. It's not parallel. I took just a chisel, so you see it's a little bit gap. It's not perfect in the middle here.
but they get the
You
idea.
see, this is
No,
a little
it's,
bit higher. So, but that way it would be perfect, getting back in real shape again.
Perfect.
And then you just block everything. And here, there, then it's really, it's only the other machine because a little bit wobbling because it's not diagonal, and then you just follow on the outside, turn around, the same thing.
We have a question here from Jeffrey. Could you do a gouge on the outside of the wheel?
A gouge, bowl gouge for example, actually I not tried it more the chisel, but it should be not a big problem. But then, okay, you need to find
Yeah, the angle and
the angle, but it should be no problem either, because you have that movement. It's also again here.
What could be a disadvantage with the gouges, for example, or a lot of wood turning tools, are that you have the Tormek recipe, and the Tormek recipe is not
It's so
applicable on the side of the wheel.
Exactly.
When on top of the wheel, it's applicable. So it's
Except you have done it, you have your adjustment, and you go
Yeah,
back
exactly.
again. But the first time, the other thing is much faster with
Yeah.
the drilling tool.
but
with the
theoretically,
tool setter.
theoretically, it would work.
Theoretically, yes.
Yes. Perfect. We have one last, not a tool pass, but recommendation with SVD 110.
Yeah, for example, you have tools or scrapers or whatever you can really use, for example, in the horizontal way. You go out. This is fast. Open here, open here. You can go like that. You can use flat or in a certain angle or quite close. You can use it in many ways.
Yeah, it gives you a
I've
lot of
seen some people
opportunities.
have even done that way. But then you have the problem with the length, of course,
Yeah.
and you will use the US 430. Therefore, the normal one is absolute. In the end, it doesn't matter. So this is for all angles, free scrapers or whatever, or you want just flat or drawing knife.
Great.
One thing we haven't here forgot to mention, like the normal planer blades here, the spoke shave blades, they're shorter, exactly the same thing, straight in.
In the easy to do on the side, yeah.
Perfect on the outside, even if they have a little bit of concave shape, then you adjust it with the two screws, like the normal blades on. Yeah, we
Perfect.
use it to round it off. You can do it on the side too.
Great, thank you, Wolfgang. I saw Ken wrote that he appreciates when the sharpening doctor goes into details. So do I, and I appreciate you always. I think it can shine through the passion you have for the system and for the MB-100. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you, Victor, for holding the camera and bearing with us. And especially a big thank you to you, all the viewers, following us week after week. If you feel that you have any questions that come up afterwards, please ask them in the commentary, and the sharpening doctor himself will be answering them. Remember to subscribe us, then you will get an alert every time we have a new live session. Next live session, which will probably be the last one before the holidays, would be an advanced knife sharpening class. And I think it has been something that has been requested and could be interesting for a lot of you viewers out there. So please subscribe and you will get an alert when it's time for that class. That was what I had to say. Do you have anything you want to add, Wolfgang, or are you satisfied?
I think satisfied. As I said, follow, subscribe here, and even on YouTube, on Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah, perfect. Until next time, stay safe, stay sharp. Thank you.
Bye.